Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name is Connor, and today we're going to be breaking down the phenomenal, thematically rich, fantastically violent, secret-level Warhammer 40k episode titled They Shall Know No Fear. It features the protagonist of the video game Space Marine 2, Lieutenant Titus of the 2nd Company of the Ultramarines chapter. If you're brand spanking new to this universe, don't worry, I'll have plenty of lore along with the beautiful violence. If you like the weapons in this video, just know that I have already built a functional bolter, I'm currently building a heavy bolt pistol, and chainsword, and I'm going to make these available to you. For further inquiries, please email me. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you want to take your support a bit further, become a YouTube member or support us on patreon.com/counterpoints. This episode is brought to you by Mastermind Models and Miniatures. They are a phenomenal paint studio out of Huntsville, Alabama, who are waiting for your commission idea. You know darn well that you're just going to spend another fortune on plastic gray kits that are just going to sit there in your pile of shame, and it will take years to get them on the battlefield. Instead of procrastinating, let Mastermind Models and Miniatures bring your imagination to life. Go to the link down in the description below and tell them that we sent you. In my humble opinion, this cinematic is on par with the violence and action of Astartes, and in some regards might surpass it. In my humble opinion, this is a thematically richer outing into the 40k universe, but first let's get the noobs caught up. This is set in the 42nd millennium during a time in which humanity is on the back foot and beset on all sides. Humanity first spread to the stars in an era known as the Dark Age of Technology, but fell due to a cybernetic rebellion and warp storms that made interstellar travel impossible. In this universe, the warp is an alternate plane of reality that allows humans to travel the galaxy faster than light, but it is also the home of spectral aliens, demons, dark gods, and their worshippers. The Emperor of Mankind revealed himself as an immortal and psychically powerful being in the 29th millennium, and he unified the species using a series of transhuman warriors. The Adeptus Astartes, also known as Space Marines, were made to conquer the stars, and they are the protagonists of this narrative. The Emperor conquered the galaxy with his Space Marines as his vanguard in a time known as the Great Crusade. One of his greatest generals, Horus Lupercal, fell to the Dark Gods and turned on the Imperium. Horus was one of the 21 Primarchs, transhuman warriors as powerful to a Space Marine as a Space Marine is to a mortal human. Primarchs are also the genetic templates from which Space Marines are created. Half of the Emperor's forces turned on him, and the Emperor was mortally wounded in a final confrontation with Horus. Horus was slain, his followers retreated into the warp, and the Emperor was interred on a golden throne. The Golden Throne is both a life support machine and a psychic beacon, and 1,000 psychers are sacrificed a day to sustain the Emperor. This beacon, called the Astronomicon, is what keeps the warp lit well enough for Imperial ships to make their way through the hazards of that plane. Should this beacon be snuffed out, humanity would fall into a new era of darkness and become the slaves and playthings of dark gods. Space Marines are some of the Imperium's finest warriors, and they are dedicated to preventing that result. Space Marines are selected from adolescent males who undergo a series of trials to prove their worth. Adolescent recruits are taken from gang wars, gladiatorial fights, hunting apex predators, or whatever ritual the Adeptus Astartes can come up with to test their mettle of their aspirants. Once selected, aspirants undergo a series of surgeries implanting them with gene seed. These are a host of organs and viral machines that transform a boy into something beyond human, a demigod of war. The Emperor is quoted as saying, "They shall be my finest warriors, these men who give themselves to me. Like clay I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war forge them. They will be of iron will and steely muscle. In great armor shall I clad them, and with the mightiest guns will they be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease, no sickness will blight them. They will have tactics, strategies, and machines such that no foe can best them in battle. They are my bulwark against the terror. They are the defenders of humanity. They are my Space Marines, and they shall know no fear." Fear is the theme of this piece, and in the opening battle you can see just why Marines are called Fear Incarnate. Second Lieutenant Titus, Blade Guard Sergeant Meteorus, and Blade Guard veterans Icaron and Levantus are fired down via drop pod onto the surface of a chaos-corrupted world. Their mission is to destroy an apostate relic and to secure coordinates for bombardment. The expectation from Sergeant Meteorus' briefing is that this mission will likely be a one-way trip. Warp incursions manifest in real space in a variety of ways, including storms, bending of the laws of physics, and impenetrable barriers. Imperial forces even use warp shielding on advanced war machines that protect against all but the greatest of weapons. This is why a ground team is needed to disrupt the warp disturbance, opening the way for orbital bombardment. The Dark Gods are beings empowered by the material plane, and they play a great game for the souls of its inhabitants. Tzeentch is the god of change, and he promises his followers immortality, knowledge, wisdom, and power beyond their imagination. His gifts always come with a cost, but for desperate souls in a harsh universe, some are willing to make that gamble. The cultists who charge these Marines are just such lost souls. Unfortunately for them, they face the Imperium's Angels of Death, and the Emperor is not a merciful god. The cultist bikers are cut down by bolt and plasma fire. Lieutenant Titus and the Blade Guard veterans are armed with heavy bolt pistols that fire 75 caliber, gyrojet assisted, delayed explosive rounds that can be seen cutting their targets in two. Sergeant Meteorus is armed with a plasma pistol that uses a powerful magnetic field to contain a fusion reaction that then unleashes superheated plasma bolts capable of melting all but the toughest of armor. As the cultists close with the Marines, they are met with a flurry of melee attacks. This is precisely how Marines are described in books and lore, and it's a beauty to behold. Each incoming strike is met with a parry, a counterstrike, or both. Sometimes the Marines are sending out multiple strikes faster than your mind can process them. The cultists have the numbers, but the Marines have the superhuman reflexes, strength, speed, and experience to make the battle look like a cruel joke. Any Space Marine is a threat worth many times his number of mortal warriors, but the Marines are not just any Marines, but veterans. Marines spend their time out of battle training in melee and range combat. in psycho-indoctrination, meditation, where they learn how to best kill the many threats of the galaxy, and maintaining their equipment. They drill endlessly to be the masters of war, and they move through many roles before being called to serve as leaders or veterans. The white helmets and equipment mark Icaron and Levantis as veterans of decades, if not centuries, of warfare. The white and red helmet of Meteorus marks him as both a veteran and a sergeant. Prior to the Horus Heresy, a red helmet was a mark of shame, but a censured sergeant proved critical in the Battle of Calth, and it was readopted by the chapter as an honor. Lieutenant Titus, white, red, and blue, and the gold trim on his pauldron marks him as a veteran, a lieutenant, and a leader of the 2nd Company of the Ultramarines chapter. A particularly ambitious cultist is being choked by Sergeant Meteorus and launches a slug round into his helmet. The round bounces off the armor made of a ceramic metal alloy known as ceramite. Ceramite is incredibly durable, lightweight, heat-resistant, and easy to repair. For his efforts, the cultist's skull is crushed with a headbutt. As the Marines clear the wave of cultists, a whine of a Punisher Gatling cannon can be heard. The Lehman Russ tank is named after the Primarch of the Space Wolves chapter and is a common Imperial Guard design. The Punisher variant swaps out its battle cannon for a Gatling cannon, making it incredibly useful at annihilating infantry. The Marines take cover before Lieutenant Titus charges the tank, leaving behind the relic to Sergeant Meteorus' chagrin. Lieutenant Titus is able to charge through a cultist dune buggy, leap onto the tank, and kill the crew with a frag grenade. The reload is another beautiful detail, where after the engagement, Titus inserts a fresh magazine and charges his weapon with a hand over the top of the pistol. This frees the other Marines to join him, and for Sergeant Meteorus to return the relic with a sideways glance, met by Lieutenant Titus. A shaped charge is used to scrap the tank, and the Marines move forward towards the warp disturbance. As they get closer to the evil within, their purity seals burn off, and they are forced to leap into the pit. Here, gravity changes direction, indicating they're in a warp rift. The Marines battle Zangors as they make their way into the pit. These are avian beastmen, souls who are friends and enemies of Tzeentch, transformed into minor demonhood and forced to serve him for eternity. These are the creatures that the cultists aspire to be transformed into. After a brief battle, the Marines enter the Dark Temple.
Was a child filled with pain and rage.
brothers.
Titus. Our duty is done. It's time to go.
Not yet, old man.
What could a soul like that be capable of?
When the Emperor first launched his Great Crusade, he tried to unify humanity in the Imperial truth. This truth denied the existence of gods or demons, stating that any supposedly supernatural occurrence could be explained as aliens from the planes of the warp. Whether this is true or not is argued amongst fans of Warhammer 40k. If the dark gods are emotional reflections of material reality that gain sentience, does that truly make them gods? However, if they are eternal forces capable of manifesting dark miracles and interceding in ways that bend reality, are they not? I'll let you guys sort that out in the comments, but the point is that the Imperium of the Great Crusade was a secular endeavor that emphasized rationality, objectivity, and the greatness of human willpower. After the Horus Heresy and the shattering of the Imperium, the souls of its domain instead worship the Emperor as a god, his Marines as angels, the supremacy of humanity as a divine right, and the galaxy is the Imperium's promised land. This cultural degradation into religious dogmatism is best exemplified by the oaths of moment being turned into purity seals. During the Great Crusade, Marines would pledge their loyalty to each other, to their legion, to their Primarch, and to the Emperor. They would swear to be brave and strong in battle and to destroy their enemies whatever the cost. These were not prayers, but promises of virtue. Purity seals in the 42nd millennium started as promises to the chaplain, and if fulfilled, can be worn permanently. They are to reinforce the spiritual strength of the Marine and to ward off malignant powers of the warp. They are spiritual weapons, akin to holy water or crosses in Christianity. Most Marines do not worship the Emperor as a god, but they do venerate him as the master of mankind and venerate the Primarchs as genetic and spiritual fathers. The fact that the purity seals burn off as the Marines approach the Dark Temple suggests the potency of the malignant power here. The relic that Lieutenant Titus has been dragging is revealed to be a casket with a sanctioned psyker within. Psykers are souls sensitive to the warp, and untrained ones can be wildly dangerous, while trained ones can be wildly useful. The psyker creates a protective ward around the Marines who open fire on a statue of a Tzeentchian Lord of Change. Dark hands lash out attempting to crush the Marines, but they are beaten back by the ward. A Tzeentchian demon emerges from the statue's scepter and freezes everything outside of the ward. The Marines charge but are frozen too as the demon hurls a blade into the psyker's back. The demon is then free to play as he pleases. Tzeentch is a god of knowledge and wisdom, but he often uses that knowledge for mischief. This demon is able to see into the souls of men, manifest their worst fears, and then kill them with it. Interpretations may vary, but I'm going to tell you what I see. I see the first Blade Guard's fear manifest as a Marine. This Marine stands strong and proud. The Marine is then shown holding the skull of an unarmored man in his hands. This figure still has the cables, wires, and musculature of a Marine, but seems smaller and more frail. The Marine crushes the man's skull, and in real space, the Blade Guard's head explodes within his armor, and he falls dead. His pauldron reveals the words, "The Lie." To me, this indicates that the Blade Guard felt he was lying about how strong he was. This Blade Guard lived in constant fear of being found out by his brothers, and worried if they found out he was weak and frail, they would kill him. This spiritual fear, this unexplored corner of his psyche, was used to kill this Blade Guard veteran. The second Blade Guard falls, but we do not see what his fear was, which brings us to Sergeant Meteorus. Sergeant Medoras's fear is much easier to decipher. In the opening to the cinematic, Sergeant Medoras is shown meditating. He remarks that humans are born as prey, fragile and afraid. A few among them are chosen to be elevated, children who survive decades of training and conditioning to carve their fear away. As a result of this transformation, they are given the power to level cities or conquer planets, but this kind of power must be controlled. Fear must be forged into obedience and faith. Medoras found a child filled with pain and rage, but in whom he could never find fear. Medoras asks, what could a soul like that be capable of? A promise of potential for great good, or great evil. Medoras sees a bloody and angry adolescent Titus and hears him saying, "Out of the way, old man." Titus was born in 825 M41 in the realm of Ultramar, a relatively stable and secure system of the 500 worlds. This places his origin 80 years after the beginning of the First Tyrannic War, meaning that whatever slaughter befell his planet was likely at the hands of that alien race. Sergeant Medoras found an adolescent Titus carrying a Space Marine combat blade almost as big as he was. This means that Titus saw some force slaughter his planet, and instead of cowering, hiding, or allowing himself to be killed, he picked up the weapon of an angel and began fighting. Even when confronted by an angel, he simply told that angel to get out of the way. Medoras' fear is that he saved a child who was destined for great evil. Medoras feared that Titus would rise to be a great Marine, but in his fearlessness would be corrupted to power and fall to chaos. Medoras feared that he would create a great warrior of his enemy, and that he would be betrayed. This fear manifests and stabs Sergeant Medoras in the guts with a combat blade, and he falls. The demon enters Titus's mind, and something incredible happens. In the minds of the other Astartes, the demon had been able to find fear. It had been a witness, able to exploit that fear in order to kill and wound the Marines. In Titus's mind, he is unable to find any fear, only anger and hatred. Titus, far from manifesting as an anxious Marine afraid of failure, or a mentor afraid of his charge, he instead manifests as a child Medoras had first found, dragging a fallen Space Marine's combat blade behind him. The child Titus charges a demon, becoming a Marine as he does so, and reaches up and snaps the demon's scepter. This breaks the spell, allowing the bolts to fly home, destroying the Tzeentchian statue, and for a freed Titus to bisect the demon with his combat blade. The warp disruption explodes, exposing it to bombardment. Even the Astartes strike cruiser believes the fire team to be lost, telling them to die well, brothers. Rather than dying, Lieutenant Titus drags Sergeant Medoras to safety. When Medoras awakes and tells him their duty is done, Lieutenant Titus calls him an old man and prepares to fight a rush of oncoming cultists. It's beautiful. What I took away from this piece, besides beautiful violence, is the role of fear in our lives. Even noblemen, heroes of our world, can be plagued by fear and can be manipulated by evil forces. We can be afraid of our own weakness. We can be afraid of the strength of others. We can be so wrapped up in pain and anger that we don't even notice that we're afraid of anything. But we have to know ourselves in order to serve a higher purpose. The reason why Titus entered the pit without fear is because he knew it was his duty to fight for humanity regardless. The reason why Titus was able to face the demon and not be destroyed is because he kept his mind focused on his hatred for his enemy and used that to break the spell. Self-awareness, focus, intention, strength, and persistence are all virtues shown in this cinematic, and I really appreciate it as a beautiful piece of art. Well done to Blur Studios, well done to Siame Peterson, who allegedly helped out with this piece, well done to Games Workshop, and by God do I want more. If you want to help support the channel for free, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the video. Ring the bell for new videos and comment for the comment gods. Your viewership alone helps me in the algorithm and is appreciated. If you want to take your support a bit further, please become a YouTube member or join us on patreon.com/counterpoints. Check out the other videos on the channel, support our sponsors, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until the end.